All right, so are you ready to dive into some really thought-provoking stuff? Because today we're taking a look at a chapter from Shana Nix's book, Choices.
Okay, which chapter?
It's chapter 4, titled A Life Filled with God Winks. And let me tell you, this one really got me thinking.
God winks, huh? Sounds intriguing.
It is. We're going to explore this idea of God winks, those little coincidences, the ones that feel like they could be something more.
Yeah, like maybe more than just chance.
Exactly, like maybe they're little nudges or signs or something. And Nix believes these God winks shaped her life choices. It's a fascinating idea.
I can see how that would be a compelling way to look at things. Like how much of our lives is coincidence versus, I don't know, maybe a little bit of destiny.
Right, and get this, she believes these God winks led her to fulfill some pretty specific desires that she's had since she was a kid.
Oh, wow. So she had like a life plan all mapped out.
She had 5 big things she wanted. To be a teacher, work for the airlines, have 2 kids, a boy, then a girl a year apart, and to live in Arlington, Texas.
Wow, specific. So is this like a preordained path kind of thing? Like she believes those childhood desires were, I don't know, maybe placed on her heart for a reason.
That's what she seems to be saying. But then you know how life is, it throws a curveball. Remember how she wanted to go to a big-name university? Like Pepperdine or Colgate?
Oh, yeah, those are some pretty prestigious schools.
She didn't even know where Colgate was on a map.
Haha, okay, but I get it. Those big name schools can have a certain allure.
Totally. But her guidance counselor in high school, Mrs. Salone, she kind of steered her towards some more practical options, closer to home, like North Texas State.
Yeah, makes sense. Sometimes we need a little guidance to get us on the right track.
Nix actually looks back and sees Mrs. Salone as a kind of divine intervention, nudging her towards a different path.
So is it divine intervention or just like good advice? And what happens when things don't actually go to plan?
That's what I'm wondering, because she actually got accepted to East Texas State, but got rejected from North Texas State.
Ouch, that's gotta sting, especially when you have your heart set on something.
She was devastated at first, but later on, she starts to see this closed door, maybe as, well, maybe a God wink in disguise.
Okay, I'm starting to see how she connects all these things together. It's interesting, like those times in your life when something you really wanted falls apart, and then later on you realize it was for the best.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It makes you wonder if what we perceive as a setback might actually be, well, like a redirect, right?
Yeah.
Pushing us towards something different, maybe something better.
Yeah, like a course correction.
Yeah.
So she ends up at East Texas State, and that's where she meets Artis.
Yep, Artis. He seems like a great guy on paper, intelligent, respectful, and he seems to align with all her values about, intimacy before marriage. You'd think things are falling into place, right?
Sounds like it. A potential life partner, check. But I have a feeling there's a but coming.
There is. Remember, this chapter is all about those God winks, and sometimes they show up in the most unexpected ways. So, during a homecoming game, Artis's brother and sister-in-law come to visit. And that's when things take a turn.
Uh-oh. Sounds like trouble in paradise.
It is, because, and this is what I find so fascinating, this very ordinary event becomes like a major God wink for Nix.
Really? So what happened?
Well, Artis's behavior changes drastically around his family. Like, he gets fixated on his sister-in-law's looks, starts making comments about wanting a wife who looks just like her.
Oh, wow. Talk about a red flag, right?
It's a big one. And for Nix, it was a moment of truth. She realizes that, even though on the surface things seem great, their values, their desires for the future, they just didn't actually align.
That's a tough realization, but it's better to know sooner rather than later, I guess.
Exactly. So she sees this as a God wink, guiding her away from a relationship that wouldn't have brought her happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder, right? Like, what if she had gone to North Texas State like she wanted? Would she have even met Artis in the first place?
Yeah, whoa, that's trippy. It's like all these little choices, these little events, they're all connected somehow.
That's what I love about this whole God winks concept. It makes you consider how our choices, even the ones that seem disappointing at the time, could actually be part of a much bigger, more intricate design.
Oh, okay, so she breaks up with Artis, but I'm guessing she doesn't give up on love completely.
Oh, not at all. In fact, she ends up dating this guy, Steve, a grad student who's also, get this, the associate dean of students.
Wow, sounds impressive.
He was. But there's a catch.
Yeah.
He has a bit of a reputation. People called him a player.
Oh, no, I see where this is going. Another God wink, but maybe not in a good way.
You got it. This one turns out to be a tough lesson. Steve uses Nix to help him with his dissertation, has her typing for him while he's on the phone with other women.
Seriously. That is so messed up.
Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about feeling used and betrayed. It was a harsh lesson for her, but I guess it reinforced the importance of, recognizing those red flags in relationships.
Yeah, and valuing yourself enough to walk away when something doesn't feel right.
Exactly. But it leaves her feeling hurt, betrayed, and even affects her relationship with God.
That makes sense. Going through something like that can really shake your faith.
It did. She starts struggling with anger, unforgiveness towards Steve, and her prayers feel like they're hitting a wall. It's like she's lost her way spiritually.
So how does she get out of that dark place?
Well, this is where things get really interesting. She realizes that she's been holding on to all this negativity. And through what she believes is the guidance of the Holy Spirit, she actually starts praying for Steve and his girlfriend.
Wow, that's powerful. Talk about turning the other cheek.
I know, right? She even connects her experience to the biblical story of Job and the power of forgiveness, and it's like this huge turning point for her. By letting go of the anger and resentment, she finds healing and rekindles her relationship with God.
That's a beautiful thing. It shows how even the most painful experiences can lead to, well, like spiritual growth and transformation.
Absolutely. And you know what? This actually sets the stage for the next chapter in her journey, where we see a whole new series of God winks, leading her toward fulfilling those childhood desires, but in ways she never could have imagined.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. We've got to dive into that next time. So, okay, picture this. It's Nix's senior year, and she's got her sights set on a teaching job, right? Back in Dallas.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Home, familiar. She even goes to a job fair at her university, all ready to, wow the recruiter from the Dallas school district.
Makes total sense to me.
But wait, there's a twist. There's this professor who, well, it seems like he kind of has other plans for her.
Oh, what does he do?
He basically insists she talk to the recruiter from Baytown, Texas.
Baytown.
Yeah, Baytown, a
Yikes.
place she hadn't even considered.
Interesting. It's funny how sometimes other people can see things in us that we don't see ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And in this case, her professor's insistence, well, it ends up being another one of those, you guessed it, God winks.
A God wink.
Oh,
Redirecting her path, huh?
exactly.
I can see how someone might initially resist that kind of push. I mean, come on, Baytown, Texas.
Right. But here's the thing. The Baytown recruiter actually sweetens the deal.
Oh,
They offer Nix a salary that's higher than any other district in the whole state.
wow. I mean, that's got to be tempting, right? Especially when you're just starting out.
It's almost like, those practical considerations, a better salary, a chance to maybe make a real difference. They kind of become part of the God wink itself.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's not always about some mystical sign. Sometimes it's about the opportunities that just kind of present themselves, even if they weren't what we originally planned. So she takes the job in Baytown.
She does. Takes a leap of faith. And remember how she got rejected from North Texas State?
Uh-huh.
Well, she realizes that, if she had gone to North Texas State, she might never have even met this professor who pointed her towards Baytown.
It really makes you think about those little connections in our lives, right? And how they can kind of lead us where we're supposed to be, even if we don't see it at the time.
It's like a chain reaction of events, one thing leading to another.
So she's in Baytown, new job, and she chooses to teach at a school that's, get this, in the middle of integration.
Wow, what a time to be in education.
Right. She's drawn to the challenge, wants to make a difference in a place where it's really needed.
It definitely speaks to her character, don't you think? Not afraid to step outside her comfort zone.
Absolutely. But even with this fulfilling career, she hasn't forgotten about that desire to live in Arlington, and to find that special someone.
Right, those childhood dreams.
Yeah.
So does she find anyone in Baytown?
She dates a few guys, but nothing really clicks. It's like she's waiting for a sign, a spark, something to tell her she's found the right person.
So what happens? Does she get that sign?
Well, get this. It's Mother's Day 1979, and Nix is in Baytown. Her mom calls from Dallas, basically demanding that she come home for the church service.
Uh-oh, moms can be persuasive.
Oh, yeah. Turns out there's this Mother's Day competition at the church, and Nix's mom needs her there to win the prize for, get this, most children in attendance.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow, that's pretty funny. Classic mom move.
So being a good daughter, Nix books a flight back to Dallas. But on her return trip to Baytown, she gets stuck on standby at the airport.
Uh-oh. I feel like this is one of those moments where everything changes.
It is. This is where she meets Sam, a pastor, who also, you guessed it, lives in Arlington.
No way. One of those childhood desires, just like that, right within reach.
It's crazy, right? But the thing is, it's a complete accident that they even met.
How?
If either of them had made a different choice that day, if she hadn't gone home for Mother's Day, if he hadn't taken his own mother to the airport, they might never have crossed paths.
Wow, talk about fate stepping in. And I'm guessing it wasn't love at first sight.
No, she actually brushed him off at first,
Yeah.
tired and frustrated from being stuck at the airport.
Hmm.
But he was persistent, and they end up talking, get this, all night at the airport coffee shop.
Seriously, an all-night conversation with a complete stranger, what are the chances?
It's crazy, right? And as they talked, they realized they had so much in common, their faith, their values, and of course that shared connection to Arlington. It's like all those little God winks were kind of leading up to this moment.
Okay, so I'm sensing a love story here.
Yeah.
What happens next?
They end up having this long-distance courtship for a year, and then they elope. No big wedding, just a simple ceremony at a justice of the peace.
Wow, that's romantic. Just going for it.
And afterwards, they had a private commitment ceremony to God at their church.
So really emphasizing their faith and their commitment to each other.
Exactly. But, even with that solid foundation, Nix is honest about the fact that marriage isn't always easy.
Yeah, it takes work, right?
It does. It takes work. And sometimes you have to choose we over me. She and Sam even made a pact. They promised to never say the word divorce.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful statement.
It shows a real dedication,
Mm.
a willingness to work through the tough stuff. They know that marriage is a journey, not just a destination.
I like that. So she's found her career, she's found love, she's living in her dream city. What's next for Nix?
Well, just when you think she's achieved all her childhood dreams, there's one more piece of the puzzle that falls into place. She ends up getting a teaching job in Arlington, just a few blocks from her home.
No way, it's like everything's falling into place perfectly.
It really is. But then she gets assigned to teach this group of kids. She calls them the knuckleheads.
Oh, I know that type, the challenging ones.
Oh, yeah. A group of middle schoolers who really test her patience and her skills as a teacher.
I love this part of her story. It shows that even when you think you've got it all figured out, life can still throw you a curveball.
And it shows her strength. She doesn't back down from the challenge. She actually embraces it. She sees the potential in these kids, the ones that others might have given up on.
It's like it brings her full circle back to that childhood desire to make a difference, Hold on, there's something else. Remember, she mentioned a work and inspirational angel in this chapter.
Oh, yeah. Who is this mysterious person?
I'm dying to know. It sounds like she had a huge impact on Nix's life. But unfortunately, we don't get a name.
Oh, no, really? She doesn't reveal her identity?
Nope. Nix just hints at it, promises to tell us more in Chapter 7.
Oh, come on. It's like a cliffhanger.
I know. But it definitely leaves us wanting more. Makes you think about all the people in our own lives who've been those guiding lights, offering support and wisdom when we need it most.
Sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes a friend, sometimes someone you never expected would make such a difference.
Absolutely. And often we don't realize their impact until much later, when we look back and see how their presence kind of shaped our choices, our lives.
It's amazing, isn't it? Shannon Nix's life, just filled with these God winks, as she calls them. Like that chance meeting at the airport, leading her to her husband, and who knows what would happen if she had gotten into North Texas State.
Right. It really makes you think about all those seemingly random events in our own lives. Like, what if they're not so random after all?
It's a lot to ponder, for sure. But before we finish up our deep dive into Nix's story, we got to talk about that mysterious work and inspirational angels you mentioned.
Ah, yes, the mystery person. I'm still so curious about who it could be.
Me too. A mentor, a friend, a
Oh.
colleague, someone who came into her life at just the right time.
I know, it's like, come on, Shanna, give us a name. But the chapter doesn't actually say who it is. Nix just mentions her briefly, and then get this, says she'll tell us more in Chapter 7.
Ugh, talk about a cliffhanger.
It's like she knows how to keep us hooked.
For real. But you know what? It does make you think about the people in your own life who've been those guiding lights, those mentors, those people who just show up when you need them most.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's someone you'd expect, like a teacher or a parent, but sometimes it's someone totally unexpected.
Exactly. And you know what else? We often don't even realize how much of an impact they had until later when we look back and see how they shaped our choices, even our whole life.
I've definitely had a few people like that in my life. Looking back, I can connect so many dots, so many moments where they helped me become who I am today.
Me too. It makes me wonder if maybe we're all angels for each other in some way, even without realizing it.
Maybe. But okay, let's wrap up our thoughts on Chapter 4. What stands out to you the most about Nix's life filled with God winks.
For me, it's this invitation to look at our own lives through a different lens, to be open to the possibility that those seemingly random events, those chance meetings, those weird little coincidences, maybe they're more than just chance.
It's like, what if there's a pattern we're not seeing, some kind of design?
Exactly. And I don't know about you, but I'm a lot less likely to just brush things off as coincidence now.
Me too. And even if there isn't some grand plan, even if it's just, I don't know, the ripple effects of our own choices, the way our lives intersect with others, even that's pretty amazing.
Totally. Like that whole thing with Nix going home for Mother's Day and ending up meeting her husband because of it. That's wild.
It is. It makes me want to pay more attention to those little moments, those little nudges, and see where they lead.
Yes. And, maybe it also makes us more aware of how we can be those nudges for other people,
Yeah.
right? To be a source of encouragement or support, even in a small way.
Because you never know how much of an impact you might have on someone's life.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Sean and Nix's life and all those amazing God winks, I think we're left with a few big questions, right? Like, what if there's more to those random events than we realize? What if the people we meet, even briefly, have a bigger impact than we can imagine?
And what if those unexpected twists and turns, those challenges, those moments where we think, ooh, why is this happening? What if those are actually leading us exactly where we need to be?
It's a lot to think about. And that's what I love about these deep dives,
Mm.
They make us question, they make us wonder, they open up whole new perspectives.
Totally. I always come away with more questions than answers, but that's a good thing. It keeps the conversation going.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So thanks for joining me on this journey through Shanna Nix's life filled with God winks. And hey, who knows, maybe our conversation will spark some God winks for our listeners out there too.
That would be awesome. It's like sending a little ripple of possibility out into the world.
Exactly. So until next time, keep your eyes open, your hearts open, and who knows what amazing things might unfold.